All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Jackie Baker with Bike Utah, and welcome to our session about how to keep new and returning riders in the saddle. In 2020, the bike industry saw a surge, not only in avid riders pedaling more, anyone here in the chat fall into that category? But also in new, as in did not previously ride or did not have a bike to ride before. Anyone maybe fall into that category? Do we have any new riders here? And we also saw returning riders. That would be those who used to ride, but maybe haven't in a while, and maybe also needed some work on their bikes before they would be able to ride. We saw them come back in great numbers too. Who in the crowd is a returning rider? Maybe last year was the year you got back in the saddle after being off for a little while. Well, more cyclists. This is the dream, right? Especially for our retailers and also for those of us in infrastructure and advocacy, right? It definitely is the dream, and it gets even better if people keep riding. And that's the tricky part, right? So today we're going to talk with Angela Wright of Bingham Cyclery and Randy Gibb of Mad Dog Cycles about how we can all help to ensure these riders continue to pedal beyond the pandemic. First, let's meet Angela and Randy. Randy, tell us a bit about yourself.
Sure. All right. Thank you. Thanks for having a day. So I'm the owner of Mad Dog Cycles in Orem, and we've been around since '97, although the heritage of our company goes back to the '80s when our store was actually part of the old Swen's Schwinn chain of shops across the state. You know, I really enjoy being in this industry. Bikes are cool. Bikes are a lot of fun, and I think that's one of the things that keeps me going. One of the things that we love doing here at Mad Dog Cycles is helping to guide somebody through what can be kind of a daunting and technical, experience or adventure to get into this new sport for some people. And one of the coolest things that we've been working with lately, especially, is e-bikes and all the advancements with e-bikes and the alternative transportation it's opening up, as well as just bringing the experience to people that may not enjoy cycling otherwise. So.
Awesome, thank you. And Angela.
Hi everybody, I'm Angela. I'm with Bingham Cyclery, and we've been around since 1962. I haven't been around since 1962, but the shop has, and I've been with them since 2015. Bingham's is just it was a family-owned store up until just a few years ago, and we really love working with the full spectrum of riders. So from kids bikes all the way through mountain bikes, and especially e-bikes, like Randy said, which is a big growing area for us. We really do feel like we're there for everyone, and it's super important that not only our staff are there for everyone, but the products that we sell and everything that we bring in is designed to make even a novice rider comfortable when they walk in our door and take a look at the products that we have to sell. So we've been a specialized retailer for almost 30 years. Our name is pretty synonymous with them. We too started as a Schwinn dealership, Randy, so it's kind of funny how that evolves. We're just excited. I think this is a really important topic because, as a lot of shops have seen, the demand is quickly outstripped the supply. Our supply chain is a little tipped on its head, but we've been super ecstatic to see all the new riders and to get some new butts on bikes, if you will. My biggest thing has been how do we stay engaged with that rider, because it's a pretty intimidating sport if we're not careful, and so we want to make sure we're staying connected with our riders and that we're answering the questions that they have, because it's a fairly complex sport. It's not just a pair of running shoes. There's a lot more involved with getting a bike and riding a bike. So looking forward to the discussion today, and glad to be here. Thanks, Jackie. Muted. You're still muted, Jackie.
I unmuted myself and then re-muted myself. All right, so thank you, Angela. Yesterday, we heard about how trail usage increased in 2020 in our mountain bike session. And I'm curious as to, for each of you, how the changes you saw in your clientele in 2020 differed from past years, and if it did. I know that we are out riding and we see more riders out there, or we think we do, and it's always nice to have data as opposed to anecdotal evidence, of course. And then also, which categories saw the growth, whether it was new and returning riders coming in that you haven't seen before, or whether it was those avid riders coming in for more gear or new gear, or if there really was any difference there. So Randy, let's go ahead and start with you.
Okay. Yeah, so we, once we kind of figured out what was going on last year when all the pandemic lockdowns and things started, we started to hear some really interesting things. One of the stories that stands out the most is when Las Vegas closed down and the strip was closed to automobile traffic, and apparently Las Vegas was sold out of bikes. We had people driving up here to buy bikes from us so that they could go and ride on the strip, which was this kind of novelty thing happening in Vegas. So that was interesting. Aside from that, mountain biking continues to be kind of the hot category, it seems like. We've got a mix of new people, lots of growth with NICA families, kids in the high school mountain bike league, mom and dad are getting more serious about it, younger siblings getting involved. So mountain biking continues to be probably our biggest growing category. And then lots of, we're seeing more and more the little bit older generation, maybe that thought, hey, we're done with bikes, we're too old, whatever. We're getting a lot of, I guess, elderly people in checking out bikes because of e-bikes. Those always seem to happen in pairs, his and a hers or whatever. So that's really cool to see as well. We've seen also, some increased interest in clinics as we've started to do clinics and tech classes and things again in person. Those are filling up really quickly. So to me, that gives me the sense that there's a lot of these new people that just want to learn and absorb information. Whereas before, clinics and even tech classes were very, I'd say, mildly attended. It's almost like people knew they were happening, but kind of already had, whatever level of information they felt like they needed. But there's definitely more interest in that.
For those clinics, Randy, are they, the clinics that you're seeing, are they more like in-shop, fix-a-flat type clinics, or are people looking to learn how to actually pedal the bicycle or shift or ride?
So what we're doing mostly now is what we call a tech clinic. So it's a tiered class, 3 classes, 1 a month, and they advance in the technical level with each one. So we have people sign up for those in advance, reserve their spot, and we're not back to the point yet where we're doing much of the bike basics type stuff. But I would imagine those would be well attended also.
Cool. Angela?
Yeah, so 2020 was a really interesting year for lots of reasons, earthquakes aside. But most of our bikes that we sold, I think the most kind of poignant, noticeable ones were we sold a lot of bikes under $1,000, which to me signals that beginner rider or the people or the family that's going to get into the sport. A lot of people that couldn't go to the gym because they were all closed. B, they couldn't do a lot of the things. Biking was something that they could do not only individually but also with a group of people and stay relatively safe from if they distance themselves well. So mountain bikes are always have been for a very long time the biggest market share that we sell. But we just had, and where we normally did pretty well under $1,000 bikes, that was felt like the ones we couldn't get enough of, and we couldn't keep them in stock. And then also electric bikes. We've been selling electric bikes for, I think this is our 5th or 6th season, and we've certainly seen an increase every year. But obviously that's grown as well, and we'll continue to do that, I think, pandemic or not. But the different types of riders, Randy's right. A lot of times they're older, but not always. We have a lot of families. We have some cargo bikes that have motors that people really, they use it instead of a car. We're seeing a lot of people, myself included. I only have electric bikes right now, which feels a little weird to say, but that's my lifestyle. I'm a single mom and I have an 8-year-old. I can't leave her home and go out and ride my bike a lot to get in shape like I used to be able to do. So I rely on having a motor, and I love it, and it makes me smile every time I get on it. And I think that that's a really important thing that people forget about biking. So you should be smiling. So yeah, I think the under $1,000 bike, and then also the electric bikes, and then of course when there's a hot bike that drops, which Specialized did with their stump jumper, that was a big deal. And of course it was limited supply, so it made it even bigger deal. So it's kind of an interesting spectrum of riders. But I would say a lot of, it's hard for us to track new riders in our system. It's not a good way for us to do that, other than they may be a new customer, but that doesn't mean that they're necessarily a brand new rider. We just have anecdotal information from when we talk to our salespeople, and getting some feedback. Like we received emails or messages that say, hey, do you have any classes or offerings on how to ride a bike? I'm really new to this. So we don't offer those classes, but we certainly say, come in, let us show you how to make sure that you've got it down. We always answer questions at the time of the sale and things like that, but it's those questions haven't normally popped up, and it seems like they have this year.
Awesome. Yeah, I was going to ask if on the say email list side of things, or you saw your for either of you, if you saw your email list grow substantially or something like that, where maybe that is an indicator that they are newer riders. But I suppose also maybe the service department would be an indicator as to if people were dusting off those bikes, and maybe we were seeing some returning riders. Do either of you have any thoughts about those returning riders, and either fixing up old bikes they pulled out of the garage, or getting on a bike because they haven't been, maybe they have a 26er and they're learning that there's new technology, or they're learning that disc brakes are pretty rad. Maybe there's some other improvements there.
Yes, all of those things. A lot of people dusting them off, bringing them in for service, which is great. We love it. We may or may not have ran out of tubes in 2020, but we loved having them come in.
Yeah, I would say definitely all those things. We don't have this sparked some ideas as we're having this discussion about how to get some more data, but we don't really have a part of our process either in our service department or when somebody's buying a bike to really ask, hey, are you first time, or are you just joining us for, you've been out of cycling for a while or whatever. But we do trade-ins, and so last year we basically took anything that we could get, and we were reaching out to customers, saying, hey, if you have a bike you want to trade in, we may not have a new bike for you, but we'll take your old one, kind of thing, is how it felt for a while. But lots of people bringing in and dusting off old bikes. The biggest spike that we kind of felt that I can ever remember is when the Murdoch Canal Trail opened, and our service business grew significantly just that opening season. And so from then until now, this has kind of been the biggest jump again in what we've noticed with people's, hey, this bike's been in my shed for 10 years and we're trying to fix it up so we can go ride. We did see a lot of that.
Awesome. And we have our first question from the crowd here. With so many shops focusing on high-end road and mountain, and I'd be careful with that's kind of anecdotal as well. Should shops start focusing more on the basic recreation commuting rider? And if so, how do you think they can do that? And so I think obviously that comes with a little bit of context, but in general, and you can raise your hand, whoever wants to go first, but what's the best way to focus on or attract that basic recreational, and I don't know if basic's the right word to use there either, but the recreational or commuter rider?
Is the question, how do we attract those folks, or is it,
or how does the shop focus more? The question is, how does the shop start focusing more? So I think you can take that how you'd like.
Well, I think at Bingham's we've been doing it all along, so it's not a new thing for us. I think we do, like I said at the beginning, we do a full spectrum from kids bikes to under $1,000 bikes and all the way through. But I do think that, I mean, as a business owner, and Randy can speak to this, we all kind of choose our specialties. And I think that we do that based on A, our passions, B, what the market can bear, et cetera. And I think what we're finding is we still have people, and we've had people come in forever, thinking that they might be able to purchase a $200 bike in the bike shop. And the reality is that we don't sell those bikes because those bikes aren't the quality level that we as bike shop owners expect to be confidently selling to our customers. So I think that it's there, and if the shop chooses not to carry that spectrum of product, that's their business model and what they do. I don't know how you can encourage a broader set of retailers to do those things if the market isn't there. That's just not what they want to do. So I don't know if that answers the question or not, but that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe as we attract more riders, it's chicken and egg, right? We attract more recreation riders. We attract more of those under $1,000 riders, like we have this past year on accident, happy accident. Then you're able to, focus more of your business on that, right? Randy, do you have some comments on that?
Yeah, sure. So we've always tried to focus on being a family bike shop. We sell a lot of kids bikes, and we have, I guess, what's entry level for a bike shop, like Angela was saying, is in nowadays dollar is, almost $500 is our starting bike nowadays. So, to answer Austin's question, it's kind of tough too, because, we want to, as business owners, maximize our efficiency. And so having this balance of getting new riders in while taking care of an enthusiast, where that transaction may be a little more efficient with our time from a revenue standpoint, we really just need to try to cater to everybody and cast our net as wide as we can. One of the ways we've tried to help bridge that gap on lower cost bikes is by really promoting and focusing on used. So whenever we can, take in a good quality used bike, refurbish it, we have what we call a certified used program, where we give it a 30-day warranty. We've had some good successes with those, and we've seen a few times where people will come back and upgrade to something really nice because they're now an enthusiast. So.
Awesome. That segues really well into my next question. I see we have a couple questions from the crowd, but I do want to get to this next question first. As you just said, return business is always a goal, and making sure riders have a positive retail riding experience, so both in the retail store and riding, is obviously key. What have you done through your stores to ensure that new and returning riders specifically are as well prepared as possible when they go out? I know we just mentioned some clinics and things like that, but maybe you can speak a little more to, your staff and what you're doing within the store to make sure that experience in the store is great, but then also that they're ready to go out and experience the outdoors as well. Randy, why don't we start off with you?
Okay, sure. So one of the things that we really, I guess, doubled down on as we went into the 2020 season is post-purchase email campaign. So basically, if you buy a bike from us, we gather a customer's information. Email is one of the most valuable pieces that we try to get. A, because it helps to, get the warranty with the manufacturer registered, but then we also have a monthly email that we send out. And, everything from, 30 days, a reminder to bring your bike back for your safety check, to, 6 months down the road, how's your helmet? Did you know helmets are a one-time use? Did you know they expire after a period of time? So we've built this 2 years worth of data, that we basically send a piece of it every month in a newsletter type format to customers that have bought a bike. The other thing is we really just try to have great staff that are well educated on trails and places to ride and events and things that are happening. And that discussion more and more is part of the sales process as people are looking for a bike. And we just try to do a really good job of educating people about certain types of accessories. Like with bikes right now, a big thing if you're riding on the streets with cars, daytime running lights. Lights are becoming so much more affordable. They're so much brighter. They're battery powered, rechargeable, really easy to put on any bike, but that could be one of the biggest safety features that you get. And so we just try to do a really good job. Obviously adding on accessories to a bike sale is good for business, but there's a reason that certain things are available and you should have them. So we try to do a good job educating people.
Awesome. Thank you. Angela?
Yeah, agreed. I think the key is just making sure. I mean, we're in business to make money, of course, but we also are in business to make sure people are comfortable and having a good experience when they're riding a bike. And I think that the gear and the equipment that comes with the bike is there, A, to help them be more comfortable. If you think about a padded short, and to be safer, to have a helmet. Cycling shoes have a purpose, and then they have a stiffer sole and things like that. And so as people are evolving along that, that trajectory from a new rider to a cyclist, if we will, they'll start tweaking and adjusting as they go. And so like Randy, we have emails that go out to help educate the rider on those things. We also have a little checklist in the shop when people are purchasing a bike, and we talk to them about that. We've been starting with text campaigns similar to the email campaign, not to be obnoxious about it, but a lot of our customers prefer to be communicated with via text. And then the other thing, kind of building on the community side of things, we haven't done any group rides through the COVID times, just because we're trying to limit the interaction. But we do have, we do support groups like Women MTB, Wildflower. We have our Peak Fasteners team that is really more of a community than a team, if you will. But we'd certainly encourage people to reach out to those groups and participate in the activities that they're offering, and doing so in a pretty safe way to plug them into the riding community, because I think that's the magic, like the secret sauce of staying a cyclist, is to do it with people and to meet new people and to try new trails. I personally had a new trail experience this last weekend, which is pretty awesome because I haven't had one of those in a while. So there are these little moments that, again, like they may have come in to buy the bike because they want to do some stuff with their family, but then they're thinking, well, maybe I'll go try this other thing. And it's that other thing that's the real hook to get them engaged and loving the sport, rather than it just being a transactional moment. And I do think that that's where the bike shop kind of comes in. And if we're doing it right, that's really where the relationship starts. And it's a long-term relationship with our riders because they trust us. They think that what we're telling them is true, right? Because hopefully it is. And that they had a great time, and the bike helped them get to that experience.
Awesome. And Randy, I know your stores are you're involved in a few community groups as well, right?
Yeah, so we try to support as much as we can any advocacy efforts happening in our areas. So, Provo Bike Walk, as they have events and things, we try to support any way we can. Orem's got an advocacy group that's trying to get off the ground, and we're trying to help support that. And so there's a couple of trail working groups that we're trying to work with as well. All these things we've always kind of felt like are so important to helping build and keep a good cycling community. So.
Awesome. Perfect. And so we have one more question from me before we get to questions in the crowd, because this is I think the big key here for how our group, both Bike Utah and the folks that are watching, can participate in helping to keep these riders riding. What do you see as barriers to positive experiences once those new and returning riders leave your stores? And how can communities or other entities help to remove those barriers and encourage long-term ridership? Angela, do you want to start?
Yeah, I think, I think if they have a bad experience at one of our shops, then that's not good, right? That in and of itself can be a really bad first step. So hopefully they don't have that. But outside of that, I think the community needs to recognize that there are a lot of new riders out there, right? And if you're out on a trail that you ride a lot and all of a sudden it's really obnoxiously overcrowded, you need to take the high road. And if you come across riders that are new that need some help, making sure that we as cyclists in the community are doing the right thing to help them. Any poor etiquette on our side, I think trail etiquette, is going to leave a bad taste in their mouth and probably intimidate them and make them not want to come back. I think that we can just do the right thing and support them in being, having a good time, right? Because at the end of the day, like I said about my e-bike, that always makes me smile. Like that's the goal, right? That's why we do this. And I think it comes down to all of us in the community to make sure that they're welcome, even if it's an inconvenience for us.
Awesome. Randy?
Yeah, as I was thinking just now, for me, the biggest thing that comes to mind is safe places to ride. And that's both on the streets and on the trails. Well-designed trail networks that have good signage, that are directional when possible, that just make it easy for new riders to understand what's going on, goes a long way. And more as we're seeing, bicycle commuting grow in our community, and just riders on the streets with cars, we get feedback all the time. I'd probably ride more if I felt safer. So that's a really big one. And we try to, help people with routes, like People for Bikes has their Ride Spot app. And so we've created some, routes in our community, and we'll recommend those to people because they're, low traffic or get you to a bike trail or something as soon as you can. So, really that's kind of one of our focuses, is to really kind of be a voice and be involved in trying to make safer places to ride.
Awesome. And hopefully everyone here on this session is able to do their part to help do that too. We do have a couple questions from the chat. A couple are, the first one is, can you give us a sense of how hectic life in bike retail is right now? Randy, we were talking about this a little bit earlier. I'll let you start off.
So we refer to it as the bike war of 2020. Long days, early in, getting home late. We, just kind of felt like we were going to war every day. One of the things that we had to do as we went into 2020, when the volume of customer inquiries went up, we actually turned our phones off. We funneled all of our communications through this texting platform that we use, and we just could not answer phone calls. It was so demanding throughout the day. So that was one of the most memorable and challenging things of 2020 that we had to deal with, was just figuring out how to adapt, and try to accommodate everybody as much as we could. So things have gotten smoother now that we're kind of more prepared for it. We've got more staff. Staff is trained on how to handle everything that's going on. But basically, if you take a business, no matter what it is, and essentially double the amount of normal contact and inquiries and customers through the door and all those things, it's challenging, let alone to do that during a pandemic where you're trying to follow guidelines and everything else. So the bike war of 2020.
Well, hopefully things become a bit more peaceful now. Angela, what about you?
Oh, it's been intense. So so on top of purchasing, which has been insane, we have a supply chain that has just been tipped on its head. The demand is so much bigger than the supply chain can handle. And we spend an enormous amount of time telling customers that it's unfortunate, but we can't, like, for every bike that we sell, we probably have 5+ conversations about bikes that we have on back order, but it's a matter of when, and maybe a matter of if we'll actually get it. People are welcome to put a deposit down and get in line for it, but it literally could be here this year and maybe next year. And so it's a very, very challenging conversation that we're having every single day, times 4 locations, and multiple times throughout the day. Fortunately, we're in a good position with a lot of our vendors, but it has been, it's just been insanity, quite frankly. It's been insanity. And we've done an enormous amount of business online, people calling from different states and wanting to purchase bikes from us. We have figured out a way to ship them to one of their local bike shops and get it built for them. But it's been just everything that we used to know got tipped on its head, and we figured out how to navigate those things. Supply chain is going to be challenging for the next 12 to 18 months, probably beyond that. We may never see the normal again that we used to know. And we're just doing everything we can to get people on bikes. We have a lot of bikes show up every week. They're sold before they're built. It's wild. It's a totally wild ride. And knock on wood, none of our staff have gotten COVID from working. One of them got COVID from their housemate, but we're just trying to keep everybody healthy and safe. And I'm not looking forward to April 10th when our mask mandate goes away, because it's going to be even harder. But we're doing everything we can to keep people rolling. So yeah, it's been wild.
Hopefully we can get everybody their vaccines before then.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have just a couple minutes left, and so I have a few more questions, and I encourage, if your question was put in the chat but not answered, you can reach out in the People's tab and directly ask Randy or Angela questions from there after we're done here. But since both of you mentioned e-bikes earlier, and it sounds like we have a couple of e-bike questions, I'm curious about if you're starting to see e-bikes become more affordable, potentially lighter, as we know, since Randy mentioned earlier that if you're older and you're moving an e-bike around, those can be a little bit tricky because they're pretty heavy. So as far as like pricing, just general affordability, as well as that quality side of things, how do you kind of see the e-bike market evolving? And Randy, we'll start with you.
So great question. Because we're always getting, that first time customer that's wanting something, affordable, but wants the e-bike technology. So right now we're seeing a starting price point of $1,500. And I don't know, just kind of like with the, scenario of the bike you'd go buy at Walmart versus the, that starting mid $400 to $500 price point at a bike shop. I don't know that it's going to go much lower than that. I know, our brands, we've seen at least one price increase since all the COVID craziness started. We're hearing, rumors about more price increases as costs go up. I know we just shipped in a truckload of product from one of our vendors that we have to pay the freight on, and it was 3 times the cost that it was to buy the same stuff a year ago. So, freight costs are going to have to be passed on. So the good thing that is happening, even if the prices don't come down or slightly are creeping up, is the technology is getting better pretty rapidly. So we're seeing bigger battery capacities. We're seeing, lighter overall bike weights, which is a big deal. So it's improving, but I don't know that the bike shop quality bike cost is going to come down. And I'll just say too that we try to accommodate people and work on, the stuff that's, straight out of China or, purchased online when we can. But a lot of the times, there's nothing known about the electronics or the battery technologies on those bikes. And that can kind of be, an unsafe scenario for a repair shop, to have potentially an unstable battery in the building is a big deal. So we're going to see this kind of interesting segment with these really low quality e-bikes not being able to be repaired and just kind of falling in that disposable category like a department store bike is.
All right, Randy, and we're almost out of time, but I'm going to let Angela have a quick question or a quick answer to that question too, and then we're going to be done.
Yeah, prices are going up. I hate to say it. I just had a conversation with one of our retailers about pricing people out of the market, and it's super unfortunate. But the supply chain, I would say in the next 18 months, prices are going to go up again, and they just went up pretty significantly, I would say. So hopefully after that, the supply chain will be back on track, and the demand and the supply demand, spectrum is going to bring pricing down. But right now the market can bear it. People are paying it. People are getting in line for it. And so unfortunately, pure economics is probably going to see those prices go up before they go down. There is financing. No, I saw that other question. So there are ways to do that we take RC Willie, believe it or not, at our shop. We also use Synchrony, and then Klarna is another financing opportunity for people. So there are ways
awesome. And I'm sure
quality, and I agree with Randy. Yeah. So it's hard. I mean, it's
awesome.
It's a very challenging thing, I think, yeah.
I'm sure Randy has his financing too. We do have to wrap it up, but thank you so much for your time. Thanks everyone for your questions. And we're going to hand it over to the youth session here in just a minute. So be sure to join our final free youth career session as soon as this one ends. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.